We know that the business of the establishment is war, and business is booming. The House has passed a $95 billion foreign war aid bill. They have packed together a number of extremely complex issues. It doesn't make sense to me, not a bit of sense, that escalating tensions in China, or certainly between the US and China, the escalating conflicts of the Middle East, and the Ukraine-Russia conflict can all be effortlessly bundled together. Nonetheless, that's what's happening.
The bill is passed.
After months of delays in GOP infighting, the U.S. House voting Saturday to provide $95 billion to allies abroad, a major win for the White House and Speaker Mike Johnson. In a rare move, Democrats crossing the aisle to help Republicans clear a series of foreign assistance bills. The package would provide $61 billion to help Ukraine fight Russia, $26 billion for Israel just days after Iran attacked the Jewish nation, and $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific, where the rise of China has national security experts worried. A fourth bill bans TikTok if its Chinese owner doesn't divest.
What? You just added TikTok today? Yeah, we've added TikTok. What? What's that got to do with it? Well, I'll tell you what it's got to do with it, is that TikTok is a site that is difficult to regulate for the authorities of the war establishment, the pro-war machine. Remember, the deep state are spending money condemning and smearing dissenting voices, ensuring that they're regarded as pro-Putin instead of anti-war. Why is the TikTok ban bill tagged onto this $95 billion aid bill? Let me know, Awakened Wonders. Let's have a look at this extraordinary story and how it's evolving with some fantastic analysis here. The resulting legislation will give congressional sanction to the Biden administration's policy of global war. The very fact that it will combine into a single whole the US interventions in three widely separated regions, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and the Far East, gives expression to a fundamental change in world politics. The US ruling elite views its conflict with Russia, Iran, and China as interconnected theaters in the same struggle, the initial stages of a third world war. American imperialism, the strongest military power but a declining economic power, is engaged in a last-ditch effort to maintain its global hegemony against any possible challenge. Wow, this bill itself could be seen as tacit acknowledgement that we are on the precipice of a world war. What other connection is there between these three regionally disparate disputes? Well, you could argue that the military-industrial complex benefits from all three disputes, whether it's by continuing to arm certain nations involved in wars, or whether it's escalating tensions in other regions. But perhaps the mentality behind it is one of global war, whilst acknowledging that as an economic power, the United States is in decline, but as a military power, they are still supreme. And as the anti-TikTok bill indicates, by preparing to shut down an app used by 170 million people, in many cases to obtain information censored by the American corporate media, imperialist war is incompatible with democracy and freedom at home. Stepped up domestic repression is a necessity for the ruling elite, both to silence outright political opposition and to impose on working people the enormous sacrifices, both economically and ultimately in human lives, that such a war will entail. War against Russia, Iran, and China means a war against the American working class. That's a complex and interesting idea, but the economic implications of this escalating conflict will likely weigh heavy on particular sections of American society. And you will not be divided by religion or culture or skin tone. You will be divided by your economic class. This is once again a crisis for ordinary people, but an opportunity for the most powerful forces in the world, comparable to the pandemic, where for them it's an opportunity, comparable to the 2008 crash. For them, it's an opportunity. For you, it's foreclosure. Comparable to the 2001 terrorist attacks. For you, it means that bills were created then that are still being passed, facilitating surveillance, an unnecessary war in the Middle East, causing millions of deaths and birthing new terror, not only into that region, but making it a domestic possibility in your homeland, in our homeland, and across the world, creating yet more fear, yet more tension, yet more dread, yet more opportunity for the powerful. The House passage of the war bill brought together the two capitalist parties, uniting them in support of an unlikely hero, House Speaker Mike Johnson. This unity has been actualized on the central priority of the US financial aristocracy, global war. War is necessary. It's necessary. Without war, they cannot perpetuate their systems of power. They cannot perpetuate their dominance. So it's not for humanitarian reasons. We can't allow Putin's criminal invasion. We simply have to support our allies in the Middle East. We can't allow China to get away with this. Now we begin to understand what this is really about. The perpetuation of continued control, the subjugation of foreign powers, but significantly, the necessary defeat into constant supine states, the inhabitants of the United States, the American people. House Democrats waved miniature Ukrainian flags as the roll call vote on the final passage of the funding of the Ukraine bill was carried out. When it was completed, they began chants of Ukraine, Ukraine, and had to be admonished from the chair to quiet down. The supposedly left Democrats, such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of the Democrat Socialists of America, DSA, and members of the Squad, joined in celebration of the Ukraine war. There were only 21 members of Congress out of 431 that voted no against funding these perpetual wars. Doesn't that astonish you? 431, that's Democrats and Republicans combined. And believe me, the Democrats and Republicans are combined. Let's have a look at that list of 21 names. Republican, 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 Republican. But those Democrats, that's the party of peace. If you vote Republican, you're a warmonger. Hold on, that doesn't make sense, does it? Now, you know me, I don't trust either party. I do not trust the system. But that's an extraordinary fact, isn't it? Particularly if you tally it, as we have of course done with Unusual Whales reporting on how many members of Congress will directly and personally financially benefit from this war. How staggering, how astonishing. Let's have a look at that moment of the members of your Congress whose wages you pay. Chant, clap like braying fools and animals at the expenditure of your money on foreign soil. They are shipping your tax dollars straight out of America. Meanwhile, the border to the south remains unregulated, perhaps because cheap migrant labor further destabilizes the domestic population. It's win-win for them, and it's lose-lose for everybody else. There they are. That's your leaders. That's your leaders. That's the people that you voted for. Those are the people that you pay for, and they are very pro-war. Saturday's votes demonstrate the most important reality about contemporary American politics. There is no lesser evil in the 2024 electoral contest. The lesser evil argument pretends to acknowledge the vast discontent with the Biden administration among millions of workers and youth while declaring that Trump would be still worse. But the House actions over the weekend showed one party, not two, or rather two parties united for war, not only against Russia, but throughout the world. The Democrats and Republicans agree on far more than they disagree. They agree on war, on austerity, on bailouts for the rich, and as Chomsky said, where both parties agree, you have no choice at all. The American working class must come forward to oppose the war on policies of the twin capitalist parties, which threaten humanity with nuclear annihilation. That would surely seem to be the most important subject now. The potential for those braying maniacs and lunatics who are so happy to facilitate the expenditure of your labor, your work, your toil, your graft, your life into foreign wars that are escalating catastrophe for all the world's people. No one is benefiting. No one. It's a war for the elites, by the elites, funded by everybody else. And that same political establishment has signed a bill extending warrantless spying powers in your country. Well, it's going to affect all of us because, well, that's the way it's set up. And indeed, I would not be so reductive as to say all people in Congress, all people in the Senate, all members of Parliament, all politicians everywhere corrupt, get rid of them, because there are occasionally voices that resonate with you, aren't there? You hear people talking in those rooms, in those halls and those chambers of corruption that make you think, yeah, they for a minute stop chanting and braying for an unwinnable war that could be solved diplomatically, so less Ukrainian people would die, so less Ukrainian cities would be destroyed, so less Israeli lives would be lost. Peace! Advocate for peace. Oughtn't the power of the United States of America, particularly as its power that's backed by your lifeblood and your life's work, be advocating for peace? Or shouldn't you at least be allowed to vote for it? I'd stay out of it. I'm English. If you had a vote, a nationwide referenda, hey guys, we're just about to pass a $95 billion bill, it's your country, it's your money, what do you want? How do you think it would go? The fact that there is no referendum tells you all you need to know. They know what you would do. Luckily, occasionally a voice comes to the forefront, like the voice of Rand Paul when it comes to the issue of FISA Section 702, who speaks clearly, compassionately and eloquently on exactly the risks and indeed how the system works. Make it delaying this vote until it's too late to do anything but obey. And that's what they want you to do. Obey. They'll only give you information if that information makes you obey, if that information is in alignment with their agenda. Let's listen to Rand Paul.
The idea that we don't have time is a specious one. The only reason we wouldn't have time is because the supporters of this bill delayed to the last hour. We have 5 years to renew this. We delayed it till we have 4 hours left, and then we're told we can't amend it because we don't have enough time. That is a false argument. The House is still here. They're going to be voting tomorrow. We should pass the good amendments today, send them to the House tomorrow. This is an argument that has been forced upon us by the supporters of FISA who want no debate and they want no restrictions, they want no warrants, and they want nothing to protect the Americans. They want to allow whatever goes, whatever happens, happens. And to hell with the American individual citizen and the Bill of Rights. I say, don't listen to the people who don't want amendments and don't want debate, and let's pass this amendment.
On this vote, the yeas are 31, the nays are 61. Under the previous order requiring 60 votes for the adoption of this amendment, the amendment is not agreed to.
These are the kind of truths that we need to discuss and that need to be conveyed. I am against war. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.